I'm not supposed to be here, I'm not supposed to be talking, but we got a few things to say.
Real farmers, real food! Real farmers, real food!
If these tax reforms go through, we'd have to sell half our farm to pay the tax.
Farming is a generational thing which is handed down. We're only custodians of the countryside more than owners of the countryside.
We should value what our farmers do, both in terms of producing food and keeping our countryside beautiful.
Welcome back to another one of my videos. Here you find me in possibly one of the most corrupt places in all of the UK. I am in the heart of it all. I'm in the thick of it all. I am in Westminster, and the reason I'm here today, well, you probably saw from the intro, I'm here to speak to the hard-working men, the farmers of the United Kingdom, the farmers of England, Wales, Scotland, Northern Ireland. I'm here because they are upset, and they have a right to be upset.
The British countryside is more than just a patchwork of rolling hills and quaint villages. It is the very soul of what is Great Britain. It's the lifeblood of our nation, a symbol of resilience, tradition and pride. For centuries, our farmers have been the backbone of these islands, producing some of the finest food in the world, all while preserving the beauty and character of this green and pleasant land. But make no mistake, the British farmer has been let down time and time again. Decades of neglect, suffocating red tape, and cheap foreign imports have already pushed many to the brink. And now the latest inheritance tax reforms, sneakily slipped into the last Labour government, could be the straw that breaks the camel's back. Let's just call it what it is. Tax, in my opinion, is theft, especially inheritance tax. A cruel double dip that robs families of the very land their ancestors worked so hard to preserve. It's not just about fairness, it's about feeding the insatiable appetite of a bloated, wasteful government. Big government sucks, plain and simple. It's a sprawling machine of inefficiency, siphoning off the fruits of our labour and spending it on pet projects and vanity schemes that do nothing for the hard-working people of this country. And make no mistake, this isn't just a tax grab, this is a land grab. Blatant attempt to strip families of their generational farms, bulldozing heritage and history to make way for seedy developers. This is not just an attack on property, it's an assault on our identity, on our culture, and on the rural communities that hold this country together. This fight isn't just about saving farmland, it's about stopping a government hell-bent on bulldozing the values we hold dear. I stand with the farmers, not because they feed our nation, but because they are the backbone of what makes Britain great. If we allow this theft, this cultural cleansing to continue, we lose more than our farmland. We lose who we are as a people and a nation.
Yeah, I'm Neil Hudson, Member of Parliament for Epping Forest, and I'm a Shadow DEFRA Minister.
Why do you think the current government has introduced these measures, as in the inheritance tax?
I have no idea. This is a crazy, ill-judged, senseless and heartless policy. They've not done an impact assessment. It's not going to raise huge amounts of money for the Treasury, but what it is going to do is catastrophically damage British farming. It's going to put family farms out of business. So in answer to your question, I have no idea whether it's ideology, whether it's something that they have something against the farming community, but it's a crazy policy and we've got to get it reversed.
So we're in Westminster today. It's a very wet, cold Tuesday. What brings you here today?
Well, obviously the lobby and the rally. I've just met with my MP for the first time, and it was a very impressive meeting and a very worthwhile meeting. Come down from Northumberland last night because I think the issues are so vital to the future of the countryside and the British farmers. Absolutely crucial that they get the message, because I don't think they, at the moment, fully understand the situation. I think the message is starting to get through, and I think hopefully they will act accordingly, but what time will tell.
Who is your MP?
David Smith.
Okay,
And very impressive chap he was too, I have to say. First time I met him today, and I hope I'll have further meetings with him in the future.
So what brings you here?
So I was the MP for Stroud in Gloucestershire, so I've represented a number of farmers, and they've been talking to me even since I lost my seat, because they're just genuinely devastated by this announcement.
And what do you think it's going to achieve today?
Listen, I think The reality is that this is an industry, this is a group of people that provide our food security, and it sounds political, but we know that the Labour Party have never really understood the countryside, and I worry that they don't care, and this announcement has kind of made people believe that even more so. So I think people coming to London, these are busy people, the farmers, they're coming to London to show strength in numbers about how concerned they are, and just to ram home to the government that this is the wrong thing to do to this industry. And if anybody wants to know why previous chancellors didn't do this, you just listen to Ed Balls and George Osborne on their podcast Political Currency. It's a daft idea. The chancellor should never have done it. It's been suggested to previous chancellors. They didn't do it because they knew the impact on small family farms, and they need to reverse the decision.
I grew up in a farming community, a little village surrounded by farms, and all the farmers I remember growing up with, they worked their asses off. They were up at the crack of dawn and before the crack of dawn. But the city folk of London wouldn't know that. They wouldn't know this, and I'm here basically to support them. I'm here to hear their voice and why they might be a little bit upset that our thieving government who wants to take tax from them, which is taxation, is theft. These people are here to basically voice their discontent at here's Stalin's corrupt commie government. We're mirroring what the Bolsheviks did in 1917. It took from 1917 to 1928 for the corrupt Bolsheviks to seize the land from good, hard-working Russian farmers. And we know what happened after that. Famine, Holodomor between 1932 and 1933. Millions of Ukrainians starved because of the mismanagement of the farms, because communists thought they knew best. This is what's going on. This is Bolshevism played in the long game. Every time a farmer dies, they will take 20% of their wealth. Well, if your wealth is tied up in land, that land or machinery, that's an asset. You're going to have to sell that. Who's going to take that? It's going to be the BlackRocks. It's going to be the Bill Gates. It's not a fair situation. Inheritance tax, if you were to ask the people of this country or the people of the world, I reckon 80% of them would say it's theft. Communists, on the other hand, and they're a small minority, thankfully, but they are in charge of this government. Rachel Reeves, who is the Chancellor of the Exchequer, probably got there not through merit, but through lying. She lied on the fact that she used to be an economist at the Bank of England. She lied on the fact that she used to be an economist at the Bank of Scotland. Your LinkedIn CV is unraveling. The real tragedy here is when she moved into her office in Westminster, she took down a picture as Thatcher's Chancellor and replaced the picture with the female leader of the British Communist Party. That tells you all about her allegiances. This is Bolshevism without the threatening land grabs yet. Right now, they're waiting for farmers to die because they know farmers are old. So they're waiting for them to die so they can seize the land. Between 2024 and 2029, they think they can generate £500 million in revenue to fill the so-called black hole that they need to fill in their budget. That black hole could be filled overnight. They spend $8 million a day on illegal migrants, $8 million a day just housing illegal migrants, to look after these migrants, to give them 3 meals. So you hear, what brought you out in the rain, the coldest day of the year?
Yes, we're here to support the farmers. We're smallholders from the Isle of Wight, and so we're not actually farmers, but we can see that this is the first stage, and eventually farmers won't be able to grow food in this country, and it'll all be just big corporations, 2 or 3 of them, that will be just selling our food. And next it'll be coming down to us, people like smallholders, that are small growers. That's really one of the reasons why we're here today.
Just explain to my viewers, because I've got a fairly international audience, what is a smallholder in the Isle of Wight?
Basically, we just grow our food for ourselves, and all food for ourselves. We have chickens, we've got sheep, and we grow all our own vegetables, fruit and vegetables.
So in a way, you've actually been slightly impacted by the fact that you've got to tell the government how many chickens you have. Is that correct?
This is another thing that worries us now. I mean, any chickens now you have to register. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Is it just chickens or all poultry?
It's all. I don't actually know, because we don't have any other poultry other than chickens. But I know for us it's chickens. So.
It does seem like overreach, government overreach.
It's a form of I can't think of the wording where. Sorry.
Right.
Yeah, it's just a form of control.
Yes.
To actually register every chicken, it's a form of control to us.
And just to give my viewers a perspective, I've got a lot of viewers in Canada and Australia and the US. To get from the Isle of Wight to London, it's not a cheap thing to do. So the fact is you've taken the time out of your to be here.
4 o'clock start this morning, ferry journey, and then 3 hours in the car. So, yeah, we need numbers. We need to really get our message across to the government now that we cannot take this anymore.
What brings you here today?
Just the thought of the government taking this inheritance tax, as we earn very little over our lifetime, and farming is a generational thing which is handed down. We're only custodians of the countryside more than owners of the countryside.
How long have the farms in your community been in the family?
We're on. This is nephews. They're on the 4th generation, and I'm on another farm which I'm on 3rd generation. So yeah, we're on 4th generation farms.
So you can explain to the urbanites that are very not in touch with the countryside, how would you explain how this inheritance tax is going to impact your farm and the farms around you?
Well, it's just taking a lot of money out of the industry.
Every generation.
Every generation, yeah.
The way it's been explained to me earlier is it's a way that if you own a factory, it's almost like they're taking 20% of your factory and you've got to somehow find the new parts for that. Would that be a good analogy, or can you think of a better one?
I've got 3 grandsons there, 1, 2, 3, and they're all in agriculture. And it's going to be a job for them to carry on the way it is now.
Have you calculated if it will be possible with what you're earning today to pay back the tax that the government's going to be requesting as of next year?
No, it won't be possible.
It won't be possible at all.
No.
It's got to come from food. It is a tax on food. Every member of the public is going to pay for it because food's going to go dearer because of it.
So this government, do you think the government realises this, or do you think the government sees it as a land grab?
I think they realise that. They just need they promised everybody extra money, and this is just their way of getting it. But I don't think it's a big enough way to justify the amount of money they're actually going to get from it. Isn't worth the devastation it will cause to the farming community.
Obviously you're here to support the farmers because you come from a farming constituency.
Yep.
Why do you think the current government has implemented this new inheritance tax?
I don't think they understand the countryside. I don't think they don't have the first clue how farms actually operate. All they see are these enormous areas of land that they see the pounds and pence in the acreage on. They don't understand that farms actually operate on tiny margins, often under 1%. And farmers don't have £500,000 or £1 million sat in the bank to pay a random tax bill when it comes through the letterbox. The only way they can pay that bill is by selling land. And if you sell land, that challenges the whole viability of most farms, or they have to borrow the money. And like a farmer said to me in my constituency last Thursday, they've worked out that it would take them 35 years to pay back. It just doesn't work. There's a reason farms were protected from inheritance tax in the first place, is because as a country we should value food production. We should value what our farmers do, both in terms of producing food and keeping our countryside beautiful, and protect them from these taxes that they can't afford to pay.
I'm a veterinary surgeon, and I have a family in the farming background, and obviously farming is not a very profitable business, and the assets are their land, and if you start taxing that, they will undoubtedly have to sell their land or sell their farms. So my question is really, why are they doing this? It can't be just about the money. It's too little money in the end. So I think it really is an attack on farming community. So I'm here to stand with the farmers.
Keir Starmer was quoted in the last 12 months before he got elected saying that he wasn't going to penalise farmers, and yet he has.
Well, we don't know, because farmers, and I think the NFU as well, were reassured that they wouldn't make this change to the inheritance tax. So I don't know what's going on in government. They seem to be in a complete muddle, if I'm honest. But I think if they think they're just attacking rich people, if this is a politics of envy thing, then they've got it wrong, because many of our farmers do not have any money. I've sat in their houses, I know them well. And secondly, if they're trying to get at the landowners that are wealthy, there may be a another way to do that with changes, but this isn't the way forward. And also they need to think about tenant farmers and the unintended consequences of making changes to landowners. So I would just urge caution, make the reversal, work with other people. There's experts like Kate Rock, there's experts in the government already that can help the government make proper plans, but don't do this to our farmers.
I'm a 5th generation dairy farmer, my future. Yeah, basically.
Is it still your parents or grandparents?
My parents. My parents are farming it alongside us, and we don't. Well, not every farmer makes money as it is. We do it because it's a living, and not a living. We do it because it's what's the word? No, not because we have to. It's our lifestyle. That's what I mean. We are born and raised it, and I wouldn't know what I was going to do if I couldn't afford it, which we wouldn't be able to afford to pay the current what we're being asked to pay, like when the day comes, and yeah, that would just mean I wouldn't know what to do.
Are you expecting farmers from all over the country to be here?
I think so, yes, definitely. All 4 corners of the country, definitely. I know there's quite a few down from Northumberland came down last night, and the first train this morning. Yes, I wasn't on the train today, so can't comment how many were on it. I think there's a couple of buses coming down. I really don't know. Time will tell. We're all too busy working most of the time to find out what's going on, to be honest.
Well, this is a fairly this wouldn't be considered an early start for you, but for most protests in London, they generally start much later than what farmers are starting. Now, obviously, that's down to the farming culture and the hard work ethics that you guys have in comparison to most of the country. Do you think the average urbanite realises what you do for the country?
Absolutely not, especially not in the urban bubble of the southeast. I don't think they do. There's a disconnect between the farming community and London especially, and I've heard some amazing comments or seen some amazing comments in the papers written by people saying, it's about time farmers took responsibility of tax and all this sort of nonsense, not understanding the issues. I think people who from rural communities, I'm very much a rural community, they are very much on side. In fact, my grandchildren today went to school in Wellis to show solidarity with the farmers, and this is a movement that started literally last week, and virtually every school in my part of North Northumberland, the kids are going to school in Wellis, just to show how much they support the farmers. Now who knows, it could happen down south, but I don't think it is at the moment. So yeah, there's a disconnect down here, definitely. That's not their fault. I don't have a problem with that. It's just that they have no connection because they have no, in France, everyone knows a farmer. Yeah. But up here, in this country, no, it's not the case.
Did it take a disaster like what the Bolsheviks did to the USSR for them to realise, or do you think they can realise in a more pleasant manner?
Hopefully they'll realise in a more pleasant manner. This is just stage one. Hopefully it doesn't go any further. Hopefully it won't be necessary. I'm not going to make any threats. I fully support a peaceful protest and nothing more than that at the moment. But I think the government will soon realise that the strength of feeling in the countryside is massive. And we've just put our heads down in the past and got on with work and not complained, just taking it on the chin. But there have been so many things coming to us from every different corner in terms of our all the other issues. I could go on for days, I won't bore you with now. But it's come to a point where we're going to have to do something to defend our futures and the futures of this country and the food supply, which is so vital. We're only 3 meals away from a riot, as they say. Someone said, I don't know who said that, but it's so true. If you empty stomachs lead to issues, and the problem is that everyone needs food. The lowest common denominator is food. You can do without our iPhones, you can do without our fancy cars, you can't do without food. And we produce that food, and we are being undervalued by the government at the moment, and that's why we feel so strongly.
So we've come up from Wiltshire, near Marlborough, Swindon. I brought all my family. I'm a 4th generation farmer. Potentially my children will be a 5th generation farmer, but they won't have that opportunity. If these tax reforms go through, we'd have to sell half our farm to pay the tax. So you have one viable farm that becomes 2 unviable farms. This hasn't been thought out, and what they're trying to achieve is going to cause devastation throughout the countryside.
Have you thought of the reasons on why they might be doing it?
I guess none of us are Labour voters, which is a start. I don't know. They promised us in their election and their manifesto they wouldn't touch this and wouldn't do it. I guess they've got a black hole to fill. She immediately gave out her $9 billion straight away. This isn't going to actually raise much revenue for her. There were much easier wins for her to raise a lot of revenue. This won't touch the size of it, but it will destroy huge numbers of family farms in this country. We might be asset rich, but we're cash poor.
It feels a lot like Ideology in the fact that we've got Rachel Reeves, who's got very close allegiances to the British Communist Party, and the fact that she replaced Thatcher's Chancellor of the Exchequer with a portrait of the person who established the British Communist Party. Do you think that has anything to do with it?
I think the Labour Party in government has no idea about the countryside and about rural communities. I'm a veterinary surgeon by background, and I know firsthand that vets and people working in the rural sector are at risk of mental health issues. This is going to be a huge stress on the mental health of our rural communities. There are really stressful conversations going around farm kitchen tables now where mums and dads are trying to work out how they can pass on the farm to their son or daughter, and they don't make a lot of money on farms. Yes, the farms are worth a lot of money, but they pass it down from generation to generation to produce the food for our country and to look after our environment. If they are going to be hit by this inheritance tax, the sons and daughters are going to have to sell off parts of, if not all of the farm, and that's going to damage food security, and it's going to take the community out of our rural communities. It's going to take kids out of primary schools. Church congregations are going to go down. This is going to be catastrophic. I just think the Labour Party in London do not understand rural Britain, and they do not understand when we have shocks from around the world with the Ukraine war, and we've had the pandemic in the last few years as well. Being able to produce our own food is so important.
Yeah, currently we produce 50% of our food.
About 50 to 60%, and that's not enough. We need to, and the Ukraine war has shown us with that in terms of the breadbasket of Europe. And actually, the fertilizer supplies to this country were compromised. Energy prices went up, animal feed as well, and so we really must be more resilient. And this is the last thing you need to do when you want to improve food security.
Thank you for being here at the farmers' protest. What actually incentivized you to be here today?
I think it's really important. These guys produce the food. They can't go on a 4-day week like the civil servants. You know, they're working 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and producing food for me, my family. You know, this is very important. I think it's not been thought through, this policy. It's just a disaster. And I have a feeling that this could be Labour's poll tax riots, you know.
Although the crowd seems a lot more civilised than the poll tax protests of the 1980s.
Oh yes, it's very civilised. It's very calm and jolly. People seem to be enjoying having a good chat with everybody. But I think what I feel from here is that, you know, there's a real groundswell of anger. They're really angry that they've been completely ignored, and it's up to the parties, you know, the Conservatives, to take note of this and see what happens.
Why do you think they have gone down this route of going after the farmers?
I think it wasn't thought through. I think the idea of just land, because, you know, there are a lot of people, rich people in the city, who buy vast acres, and they don't farm, they just use it as a tax incentive. These guys maybe not own their own farms. They may just be renting this. And when the owner has to sell up through inheritance, nothing to them. They have just lost everything. It seems to be coming. It seems to be going off now. They're having a good time.
Are you aware that the biggest landowner of farmland in the United States is Bill Gates, and Bill Gates met with Keir Starmer in the week preceding the budget? Do you think that has any influence on the measures they've taken to basically seize the land from the farming community?
What I'm concerned about is that if family farms are having to sell their land, the people who are going to be able to afford that are going to be rich developers and investors. And the last thing we want to see is prime British food-producing land taken over by housing developments in inappropriate areas, but also industrial solar plants. We've got more than enough agricultural buildings up and down the country, railway sheds, where we can put solar plants. So we've got to make sure that our prime food-producing land is protected. This policy is going to be catastrophic. We've got to get it reversed.
I get that, but you just dodged the question in regards to, are you aware of Bill Gates having the meeting with Keir Starmer?
I'm not aware of any meeting with Bill Gates has done fantastic work around the world in terms of in trying to improve the developing world in terms of public health and infectious diseases. I'm not aware of any meeting, but all I'm saying is that we need to make sure that this Labour government reverses this policy now to save British farming. Okay? Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Thank you. There's a lot of people that live in the cities who probably don't have any strong links to farming, possibly no links to farming other than the food on their table. What do you say to them when they say, well, we pay inheritance tax, why shouldn't the farmer?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head when you said the food on their table. Everybody's got to eat, right? Yeah. And if you challenge our food production, if you make us more reliant on imports because we're not growing it and producing it here ourselves, well, actually, the net result of that is probably going to be higher food prices for everybody. So, yes, you can sit in the city, you can sit in the town, you can be part of the North London Keir Starmer metropolitan elite and say, but what does it matter? Well, it matters when you go to the supermarket. It matters when actually the food that you want and the drink that you want, you can't get anymore because you've shut down production of it.
I feel like it is, we're harping back to almost over a century ago when the Bolsheviks seized power in the USSR, and there was a land grab in 1917, and then they eventually took all of the farmers' land by 1928. Does it feel like that?
It feels like it could be. You know, I don't want to go quite there yet, but actually I can't see the reason why they're doing this unless they want the land. Do they want that for housing? Do they want it for solar farms? Do they want to reduce farming so that they control the food supply? I really don't know, but it's not good, whatever is going on.
Do you think this is led by ideological people, and the fact that we know that Rachel Reeves has a picture of the female leader of the British Communist Party, the person that founded the British Communists? Do you think that's linked in any way to the measures that she's implemented?
I think there is an element of ideology. We had that ex-Labour advisor on one of the news outlets the other day saying that he wanted to do to farmers what Margaret Thatcher did to miners, and you know, that is dangerous language. That is, I mean, it's seriously weird, actually, when you sit back and think about it. I suspect, I don't know, I suspect Labour's approach and Rachel Reeves' approach is just seeing pounds and pence without understanding what actually sits underneath it. They see land, they don't understand how that land has actually been worked and used and loved and nurtured for generations.
Are you surprised or not surprised at the fact that Keir Starmer in the last 12 months actually said to farmers that he wouldn't be attacking farmers in any way, and then obviously he went typical, he went against his word, and he...
Very disappointed. Surprised, no. Disappointed, yes. Very disappointed. But, yeah, well, I will probably not say much more than that, because, yes, we all feel pretty betrayed is the term that's being bandied around at the moment amongst the NFU. Betrayal, I think, is a better, more sensitive adjective at the moment.
From my perspective, it feels like they're not historians. They haven't, if they are, they haven't really studied what the Bolsheviks did in 1917 all the way up to 1928, which led to the Holodomor between 32 and 33, which caused 6 million Ukrainians to starve. Could we be heading down that path if this isn't stopped?
I think we're heading down the path of a lot of land being taken out of food production if the family farm tax stays on the statute book. And yeah, of course, it'll be a relatively slow burn because it will take a couple of decades to get to the point where all the land is in fact gone. But it is a dangerous starting point. What I actually think we should be doing is looking at the other end of the spectrum as to why some farmers are feeling the need to sell land before any of these changes come in, and incentivising them to keep it and to keep producing the food that we know is the best in the world.
Do you think there's a lot of ideological interest going on here from people like Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer, or do you think it's just Labour being Labour?
I think it's a bit of both. I think there is an ideology that they think that they can. I think they think we're all rich in the countryside and have lots of money, but although we've got farms worth a lot of assets, we don't actually earn much money at the time, to carry on all the time. It is, we earn a lot less wages than a lot of other industries.
It's not a question that most Englishmen like being asked, but there's a lot of urbanites, especially in the city that we're now in, that all they care about is money, and they're going to probably wonder, they're going to say, well, hang on, farmers are rich. What does the average farmer earn these days in 2024?
they said that the average farmer was below 50,000, but I would think in our area it would be a lot less than that.
Minimum
A
wage,
lot
I would
less
have
than
thought.
that. Yeah.
So
That's only, there's so many hours done for nothing. There's all these extra hours to put in on the hope that, or in history, the farmer has been handed down to the next generation. But
it's certainly not an industry you're going to get rich quick in at all, or it's not an industry. You're doing it out of the love for the countryside, the love for the heritage in a way, aren't you?
All farmers do it for the next generation rather than doing it for yourself. But we're only custodians of the countryside, as we say. We just hand it on to the next generation.
Do you think we're destroying the heritage, potentially destroying the heritage by what's about to take place?
Yeah, I'm sure you are, because the countryside wouldn't look like the countryside what it does today if it wasn't for the farmers. The farmers look after the countryside. We're not in farming we make a living, but we're not there to make money as in city money.
Do you have support from all your party in Westminster, or you are a minority in the Conservative Party?
The Conservative Party is pretty united on this. We are definitely a party of the countryside. We are a party that understands farming, and I think the Conservative Party we've dusted ourselves down off the, no sugarcoating this, beating we took in the general election in July, and we are challenging Labour on those things that they're getting wrong and standing up for the communities that we currently represent and aspire to represent again in the future.
Come rain or shine, sleet or blizzards, the farmers are out in this country. 4 o'clock in the morning these guys will be up while you are sleeping. So you can have your milk for breakfast, your milk with your coffee, you can have your loaf of bread, you can have your beer in the evening. That all comes from the farming community. If you tax their assets, it's like taking away 20% of the engineering plants, and it's the reason that there's so many upset people here. Conservatives seem to be the ones supporting the farmers. Say what you like about the Conservatives, but at least they're on the farmers' side. Completely oblivious to NWO, but when it comes to the farming community, at least the Conservatives have their ear to the ground. The tradition, for those that don't know, I know I've got a lot of American viewers. Traditionally, farmers in the UK tend to wear a lot of barber jackets, a lot of green, a lot of tweed. It's almost like a way of identifying themselves. So when I grew up in the countryside, everyone around me was wearing green and tweed. I almost look out of place because I'm simply in a rain jacket, and you can see why I'm in a rain jacket. The weather is atrocious. As we walk past the cenotaph, this is where the gathering will be. You might remember from many of my protest videos. Cenotaph just here. And there's no threat that anyone's going to do any harm to this cenotaph, unlike some protests I may have covered. And you know exactly what protests they might be. We recently had Remembrance Sunday. It was only a couple of days ago. Today is the Tuesday, following on from the Sunday, give you an idea on the timeline of this, what's going on. But as you can see, we're getting closer to the thick of it now. So, and let me twizzle it around just to give you an idea of numbers. What's interesting is they would close the streets for the Palestinian protests, but they've left this one open because they thought the traffic can get through. Maybe they're not quite expecting the numbers, but I think the Metropolitan Police once again probably got it wrong. So literally right outside the entrance to Downing Street we have here, the Metropolitan Police haven't taken the decision to shut down the road. We've got one single lane where the traffic is going very far. There's a tractor just here. Let's ask this sergeant here why Sergeant, I noticed you haven't shut down the road, but other protests you would be shutting down the road at this point. Why have you not shut down the road today?
I don't know, the best person to speak to is the one with the yellow stickers on.
Not yourself?
No, not me. I don't make them decisions.
You're not giving me maybe a bit of insight that now might be the time to shut down the road?
If you ask him in the yellow, he'll tell you. He made decisions.
Who's the guy in the yellow?
That way. Chief Inspector.
How far is he?
You'll see him. If you keep walking to the end of this, just past the cenotaph, you'll see him.
Okay.
You'll have it. Right yellow.
Thanks very much.
No,
if it was you, would you shut it down at this point?
I don't know.
Yes,
Can't
you do.
answer that question, can I?
Thank you. There's a few people not fans of Rachel Reeves here. Rachel Reeves, this SME killer. I like that.
That's right. That's it, mate.
Hi, Sergeant. How are you doing? Looks like you've decided to shut down the road now. Is that correct?
I believe so. No, the decision made, yeah.
As well?
That was the decision made by our council.
Okay. It took a while, that. I thought you would have shut down earlier, knowing that there was going to be this many people here.
Again, that's not up to me. There's people up who's planning that.
Okay. Well, who's it up to?
Up to gold and silver.
Okay. But it's good to see that you have shut it down now, yes?
Well, yeah.
Well done. No, I appreciate that.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
Cheers. It looks like they have actually now decided to shut down the road. I think they underestimate the number of protesters here. So we've got the last bus that's coming through here. The last bus coming through here, 231. All of the other traffic is now blocked. They realise it's not such a good idea to have traffic coming down this road when there's a big protest on. Why do you think those on the left always think that they know better than everyone else and they know better than farmers when it comes to farming?
I have no idea. They clearly don't, and so they should actually start working on a farm for a month and see what it's like. And and because we can see here, the farmers are all very, people with lots of integrity, and they work hard overall. So they should be able to keep their land and keep their farms and pass it on to their families.
This is just an example of some of the food the amazing British farmers produce. We have the milk of all different types of flavours, pasteurised, non-pasteurised, wheat biscuit, Weetabix, fruit and veg, lots of vegetables, everything that basically keeps the nation going. And our corrupt, Bolshevik, scumbag government wants to make it even more costly for people by putting an extra tax on the farmers, because it's only going to come filter down to the Joe public that buy the food. We need the farmers. We don't need them being prosecuted. We don't need them being penalised. Well, when you have insane, low IQ people in charge, this is what happens. Maybe you can all answer this question. If you could speak to Keir Starmer today or Rachel Reeves today to potentially change their mind, what would you say?
Come and do a day's work on the farm and see how you think it is, and get paid nothing like I do. Like the money they get for being Prime Minister, they shouldn't get half of what they got really, because we don't, and we do the full-time job same as they do.
Farmers never take a wage, see, because I'm a grandfather and 3 of my grandsons, and none of them take wages. They're just farming to have a share of the farm. That's how it's been going on. I didn't have a wage.
You do it out of the love. You do it because it's part of your heritage. You do it because it's part of your family. It seems to be the biggest reason that you guys do it.
I'm a 3rd generation farmer, and I never had a wage. My father never had a wage, and my grandfather started it.
I guess the biggest overriding thing for me is that, like you say, we're not taking wages because we're doing it for a job. It's a lifestyle as such, which sounds really difficult to understand. But I'm not like, if I wanted to make money, I'd do any other job. I go stacking shelves and make more money than I do, but I don't think I'd get the fulfilment out of it, of feeding people, even though they might be ungrateful. And you're not like with the land. You need the land to be able to do it, but I'm not like the rich man because you've got it as such. So it's very frustrating when they're trying to take that away from you. When I'm in theory getting fulfilment out of giving people cheap food then because of the wage I'm taking. So I think that's the difficult part with it. That's why everyone's here today, I think, really. So
as a farmer, you never see the money because the money just stays in the farm. Your farm may be worth 7-8 million, but it's just there on paper, but you never actually have 7-8 million in your pocket at all.
All the farmers is as rich as men in the churchyard. Farmers is as rich as in their churchyard. They ain't rich until they die.
Were you expecting this many people?
Probably not, no.
No, not at all.
There's a lot more at home doing the work, because obviously the cows have still got to be milked today, and all farming carries on, so we couldn't all come up here today. There's a lot of work being done at home still.
Rachel
Do you possibly think her ideological interests? She took down a picture of Nigel Lawson from her office, Thatcher's Chancellor of the Exchequer back in the 1980s, and replaced it with the founder of the British Communist Party. Do you think that has anything to do with these measures?
Quite possibly. She wants us all to work for the public sector, then they can control us, and we'll be members of the unions. And as the ex-Labour advisor came out last week and said, we'll do to farmers what Thatcher did to the miners.
Yeah, which is a pretty hideous thing to say.
Yeah. But we're feeding everyone 3 times a day. You can't function without the farmers. They've got a green agenda, but what do they want to do? Fly food in from around the world? That's not going to solve a green agenda.
No. Just explain what your sign means.
It just means that our government is basically been infiltrated by big business, big corporations, global business, UN, NATO, EU. They're all guiding our governments into a way that most people don't want.
Yeah.
And it's genocide on us, really, we think, we feel like.
Are you aware that the biggest farm landowner of the US, Bill Gates, met with Keir Starmer in the days before the budget?
He did that, and he also, when Boris Johnson was first Prime Minister, he then had a secret meeting with him a couple of days after Boris Johnson became PM. So, you know, why is this man having secret meetings with our Prime Ministers when they come in?
No, it seems as sinister forces are at work. Well, the first question, what brings you here today?
Just like make sure that like we can have the farm when we're older, and like make sure that we don't have to pay like more than the farm's worth for it.
So I take it your father or your grandfather are farmers?
My dad and my granddad are both here today, yeah, and they're farming.
What does it mean to you, the younger generation? You seem to be some of the youngest here.
Yeah, it'd be good, like, I don't know.
It's your future, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd like to farm when I'm older, and I don't know. What do you think?
What about you, Fred? Come on, boys. We're both farming boys.
Well, if I could have the farm, I just love farming. So, yeah, it'd mean the world to me if I could have it. But if I got to sell it, like all the work my dad's done, like build up the farm, I'll lose it. So, yeah.
So your dad has worked hard for many years. He's told that, you know, there's been probably a bit of blood, sweat, and tears in all those years, to hopefully pass it on to the next generation, including yourself. If you had a message to Keir Starmer or Rachel Reeves today, what would it be?
Use common sense. That's all I can say. Yeah, and stop the constant money grabbing. You know, they've managed to alienate most of the people in Britain, different groups. You know, the pensioners, the farmers, the students. They managed to alienate everybody. So I don't know quite where this is going to end up.
We're stood outside.
Downing Street.
We are stood outside, literally Downing Street. There's a tractor just in front of Downing Street, and we're stood outside it. If Keir Starmer came out today, do you think he'd receive a warm reception?
I don't think Keir Starmer would dare to come out. He's not that sort of person. He would avoid all confrontation.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. You're in the belly of the beast right now as we're walking past Downing Street. If you could speak to Rachel Reeves or Keir Starmer today, what would you say that, you know, in an elevator pitch to change their mind?
Well, I get that there has been an element of, we're in London at the moment, there's been an element of city money and very rich people buying up farmland to avoid tax loopholes, etc. I get that's probably not right, but to go after those people, this is not the way to generate money and go after them. This is not the solution. This has been ill thought out. They never consulted with anyone. I think they should sit around a table and think again.
It makes sense. I appreciate that. And your sons and your daughter that are here today.
So our school authorised for them to come out.
Fantastic.
It was an authorised. Our head teacher thought it was a worthy cause and fully supported us and gave them authorisation to come out today and thought it was a worthy cause to fight for.
What does it mean, this inheritance tax? What does it mean in terms of the likelihood of you having that farm in the future?
Well, like, it's mean that I'm not better to have it, because if this doesn't go through, it'd be so much money that my dad would be able to afford it, and I will lose the farm. I have to sell it. So, yeah.
Definitely sell bits.
Yeah, well, we have to sell bits of it, yeah, but it'd be a shame, really.
Which will obviously make the farm less efficient because, you know, the economies of scale. A smaller farm makes it harder to make money from it, surely.
Yeah. If we have no land, we can't. You know, if we've got no land, we can't produce any food.
Yeah.
So how are we supposed to feed people?
Are these your sons?
That's my son. That's cousin. That's his cousin. This is a friend's son. This is my brother. He farms. This is another farmer, and this is my brother-in-law.
So it's a real family thing. Do you feel this is ripping the heritage out of the United Kingdom?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Harry will talk.
Yeah, if my father was to die, we would have to pay £2 million inheritance tax just on his death. But there's two partners in the farm, so if they both die, that's £4 million inheritance tax we'd have to pay.
Have you calculated? Is that going to be even possible to pay?
No way is that possible to pay. They've given us 10 years to pay it if and when sadly he dies, but that's 200,000 a year. It's just not justifiable. It's just ludicrous.
And the only way for you to raise that money would be obviously increased prices, and make you uncompetitive.
Start selling off parts of the farm, which is just not what we've set out to do.
Who do you think would be buying the farm should you have to be forced to sell it?
I think there'll be more of this carbon light land. So like British Airways and things like that are buying land to offset their carbon footprint. So I think that's where it will go. Yeah.
Just with the really wealthy.
Pardon?
The real wealthy people. Who don't really
more
want to
wealthy
farm
people.
it.
Yeah. That will outside of farming money. Yeah.
Which in turn will make the United Kingdom more dependent on importing food from overseas.
Yeah. We're only something like 40% self-sufficient as it is. So it's just a disaster, absolute disaster. Yeah.
Thanks, Emily. Thanks, Ollie. Hello, everybody. You're right, I'm not supposed to be here. I'm not supposed to be talking. But we've got a few things to say. And I'm going to start with a bit of honesty. I lived in London 25, 30 years. And when I was here, like a lot of people who live in cities and go on Twitter, I thought farmers drove around in Range Rovers, moaning, until February, and then you all went skiing. And then about 5 years ago, I started farming. And I've come to understand just how unbelievably difficult it is, and complicated, and dangerous, and cold. Very cold. Even when we're harvesting, it's cold. And it's just the forest of costs that staggered me. £200,000. Somebody needs to turn their mics off. £200,000.
Need a medic.
Medic.
We need a medic to the right.
We have a medic over to
by the building.
Building doesn't narrow it down, Ollie. I'm going to say
to the right of the stage.
To the north of the stage at 3 o'clock. Okay, so as we all know, everyone down there, you know a tractor. £200,000 for a medium-sized one. A combine, £500,000. All the equipment costs a fortune. And if you try to price what you're selling to accommodate that, there's just a lot of moaning. You get people saying, well, I shouldn't pay that. I can get a chicken from abroad. Yeah, you can. But it's so full of chlorine, it tastes like a swimming pool with a beak. And then you've got the environmentalists endlessly shouting at you, oh, your cows, they're altering the composition of the gases in the upper atmosphere, and your fertilizers ruining the trouty freshness of our streams and rivers. And I know sometimes you just think, well, what's the point? We're just trying to make breakfast, lunch and dinner, and it's just this endless whinging and there's no money in it. And the regulations. Some of you down there will know what I'm on about when I say we got a lot of GS4 this year on the farm. And we were told, oh, the sheep will love that. No, they don't. They're standing looking at it in the same way that a 5-year-old looks at an olive. They don't want to eat it. And so we have all of this complication and all of this cost, and there's very, very little money in it. very little money, as you know. And then we got the budget. Now, I know a lot of people all across the country in all walks of life took a bit of a kick on the shin with that budget. You lot got a knee in the nuts and a light hammer blow to the back of the head. Because we had pickup trucks, double cab pickup trucks, being reclassified as company cars. 211% tax rise there. £50 carbon tax on a bag of fertiliser. The basic farm payments altered in such a way that we're getting a lot less than we thought we were going to get. And then there was the inheritance tax business. Honestly, I don't know where to start. I know you've heard a lot about it today, and I'm not going to dwell on that. I will just say this. Rachel Reeves has told us, what is it, 72%? 72% of farms are going to be unaffected by this. I've just been interviewed by Victoria Derbyshire for Newsnight. Let's see if we can educate her here, if she's still around, Victoria. How many people here, if you'd raise your hands, are from a family farm? I want to see, right. I hope we can see that. I hope we've got our cameras from the show up high to see. That's a lot of hands. Now, keep them up, and I want you to lower them if you think, and you've had time to work this out, you think you're going to be unaffected by the changes to APR and BPR. Put your hands down if you're going to be unaffected. Thank you. My case rests. I want Newsnight to see that. She was trotting out. Nobody's affected. Rachel Reeves says so. Since when was the BBC the mouthpiece of this infernal government? I've got to get the brakes on. The trouble is I'm off my tits on codeine and paracetamol up here. I don't know what I'm saying. But I do want to finish, if I may, with a message to the government. I do. Not a shouty one. It's this. For the sake of everybody here, and for all the farmers who are stuck at home today, paralysed by a fog of despair over what's been foisted upon them, I beg of the government to be big, to accept that this was rushed through, it wasn't thought out, and it's a mistake. That's the big thing to do, admit it, and back down. Thank you, everybody. Have a great day.
There's going to be a lot of out-of-touch Londoners and people from around the country who are considered urbanites that probably aren't aware that it's a hard life being a farmer.
People do, and we don't, as an industry, don't talk about mental health, and it's bloody hard. You're up at 4 o'clock in the morning, you're not back in, and my dad doesn't finish until nearly 9 o'clock at night. Yeah, we're people, and we're not just sat in tractors on the road, driving slowly and making the road dirty, making a smell, working late at night. We're doing it to feed you.
Okay. It's all right to film it. Thank you. If you could speak to Keir Starmer or Rachel Reeves for 1 minute, what would you say to them?
They've got to massively rethink it because it's just not going to work. And
their statistics and their stats are just so wrong.
Sorry,
yeah, their statistics and stats are just so incorrect. It's just, they've got to seriously do their homework and rethink. Yeah.
Do you think the fact that Rachel Reeves has been linked to the British Communist Party, she has a picture of the founder of the British Communist Party in our office, do you think that is any way influenced her decision to impose this inheritance tax on farmers?
Oh, I wouldn't know, but yeah, don't know.
I wouldn't know to comment on that. So I would imagine probably yes.
Don't be afraid of commenting. We're not.
No, I don't really.
You don't think?
There's a difference between farmers and people that are buying land to just
save money. You can't tax working farmers because there will be nothing going forward. Food security has surely got to be of a greater concern than the way they're treating it at the moment, I would say. But, I mean, these boys aren't going to be farming. There's no question about it.
Because there simply won't be a farm there to farm.
No.
Well, like if all this happens and we'll never actually have a farm, and us three lads, we all want to farm and stuff because we enjoy it so much. But if there's no land to farm, then we won't be able to do anything.
Well, we're here because they seem to be wanting to take farms to bits in this country. They're doing things that means that young farmers especially won't ever be able to take over from their parents and keep on working the land. Over time it means that farming land will be taken from farmers, and you'll lose food, you'll lose sovereignty over your food and over your own country after a while, so it's no good, and we're here to try and stop that. And plus these people have come and taken decisions about things that they have no idea about. You can just have a look at the numbers that they're coming out with. They're obviously wrong by every account, and they take decisions on their stupid numbers and stupid ideas. There we go, stupidity is what we're here to come and protest about.
Are you surprised by the number of people that were here today?
Yes, I think there were more than what was supposed to come, or more than they were expecting at least, and they've come from a long way away, which is a good thing. Scottish Welsh people. And
where have you come from today?
We haven't come from very far actually. We're from about an hour and a half north of London, so we're lucky, but lots of people have made a far larger effort than us to come down here. So.
We're in front of Keir Starmer or Rachel Reeves. At this minute in time, you had 30 seconds with them. What would you say to them?
I'd say go and have a look at how farms work. That's it. And if they have a brain, they might be able to do something, but I'm slightly doubtful about that.
Yeah, pessimistic on that one. Yeah. What's your name?
William Monday.
William, thank you very much, William. Appreciate it. Have a good day.
No problem.
Cheers. If you could speak to Keir Starmer or Rachel Reeves for 30 seconds, what would you say?
Get fucked. Maybe. I don't know.
It'd be more like, if you keep this up, you won't have any British farmers, you won't have any British produce. Do you really want to be importing everything? Your eco footprint, that's going to be massive. Is that good for that's what carbon footprint, that's going to be massive. Is that really what you want? Yeah. You go on about wanting to make it help climate change. That's what's making it worse. Not the cows farting and shitting in fields. That's not going to affect it. The planes that are flying over, that's what's going to affect it. Not our little cows that, have been around for years and years and haven't changed it. So they need to think about that.
On that point, our standards of farming have to be higher because we have loopholes we have to jump through. So that's why our British food is more expensive, but it's because our animals have much higher standards. You go and buy foreign stuff and they don't. I've worked in foreign countries and their standards are nowhere near what ours are, so British food is better in the first place.
Okay. What's happening right now in the UK might not be as obvious as what happened in 1917 in the USSR, when landowners, peasant farmers had their land taken from them. This didn't happen overnight in 1917 when the Bolsheviks came to power. This happened over effectively 11 years, from 1917 to 1928. Finally, all of the farmers and the peasant farmers and landowners had their land seized from them by the communists. The government overreach will be taking people's land, taking people's hard-working money from them, and these people are angry, and they have every right to be angry, because the government is wasting billions, as you heard from the leader of the UK Independence Party, on migrant centres, migrants 3 meals a day. Americans need to understand that we don't have a strong leader in charge of us. We have a really, really corrupt, a New World Order set of puppets leading us. And the future is bleak right now. The future is really, really bleak. You guys had a revolution, a Tea Party revolution, because of 1% tax. The taxes in this country are obscene, and we're getting very little for our money. And the taxes year after year after year are increasing as the government is doing less and less and less for the people of this country. And the people are angry. It's the farmers today, but it's going to be the Joe public tomorrow.
Nothing, only indigenous people. Don't do anything against the race hate people.
There will be more protests, and I'm sure you're not going to see the last of the farmers. I'm shivering, cold, but this is nothing in comparison to what your typical farmer goes through on an average day. On an average day, they're up at 4, sometimes they're up earlier, and they're working, as you heard from that young lady back there, they're working until 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, depending on the time of the year. And they're working hard for their wages. Some of the youngsters are earning minimum wage and below minimum wage, but they do it because they love it. They do it because it's their heritage, it's their part of their lifestyle, and it certainly beats stacking shelves or becoming some media lovey or some government jobs worth. We have to value the backbone of our civilization. Without farming, we are not a nation. Do we want ultra-processed food, eating the bugs, as Klaus Schwab would say, or do we want good, healthy food made in England, Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland? I know which one I'd rather have. Anyway, if you appreciate this content, hopefully you do, give it a quick like, give it a comment, give it a share, maybe click that subscribe button. But I need to warm up. I'm off to the pub, so until next time, you can watch another video. Until then, bye.
Real farmers, real food. 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 Real farmers, real food.